The investment management industry is driven by a certain look of polish, of fake reality. This is why independence is so important on a much deeper level of connection and community.
They have reached the point in life where they are no longer interested in fitting into somebody else's mold, because they've realized that they've just hit nothing but wall after wall after wall, hindering them from truly growing.
Eliminating 50% of someone's income is a great stress test for me. And I say, look, you're a retiree. Here's the setup. You got a certain amount of income, cut that income in half, i.e. market loss. Let's stress test that and see how it feels a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. I don't want to get stuck into the same old YouTube crap that I see.
Yeah.
It's fear, but there's no resolution.
Right.
The guys and gals on YouTube can go so far. A lot of them aren't licensed. They can't actually manage clients' money. So this is where, when I start thinking about, okay, we talk about all this stuff, but what is the solution to it? What it really boils down to, if I really get to it and I think about where we are in the markets today, is as an individual, think about the income that you earn. And if you lost half of your income tomorrow, what would the first of the month look like?
So I have a story that is just like that, because recently we did lose half of our income. Recently my wife, Tracy, was let go from the job that she was at because they changed her job classification. So we were maintaining pretty well with the income I'm bringing in from PM and from my revenue ventures, and then her salary that she was getting with the company she was at, we were swimming. There was still some time, and I'm getting less and less. It's happening less and less these days, but the cushion towards the end of the quarter is getting a little bit bigger as the quarters go. Then I got a call July 3rd at 12:30, and Tracy's like, "Hey babe, I'm on my way home. I was just fired because I didn't agree with turning death into a sales position." And she was terrified that I was going to be flipping out furious.
I don't want to go into that death. And I know the situation, but putting her in a situation that forces her to, I get it. We don't even go into that, I get it.
Forcing somebody into a mold that fits a company perspective and not how that person can thrive and shine in a company.
Yeah.
It's a completely different way of looking at things. And it's a level of freedom that most corporate America does not allow. And it's a level of freedom that we just take for granted sometimes because we're able to make those decisions.
So that's a great example then. That's probably and again, I'm shocked right now because I didn't even think of this conversation. But I talked to you the day you told me that she lost her job.
Yeah. And
I'm already thinking ahead, and you know me, I'm already thinking ahead because we're best friends, and I get it. But the solution to that was so natural, right? Fist bump on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I never thought, how do you feel?
I had zero worries.
But how did Tracy feel?
Tracy was terrified. She was terrified that I was going to be disappointed or look at her differently. She was terrified of being judged by me, of being judged by those around us, of what it was going to do to us financially, what the next step is. Tracy is very much a pattern calendar driven person.
Catastrophic planner.
And a catastrophic planner.
Yeah.
But she's also one of the hardest workers I've ever met.
Yeah.
So the fact that she was fired has become a blessing than the curse that, you would think it would be.
Yeah.
But she came home and took a nap, and it was the exact opposite. I was not worried at all.
Of course you're not, because you're always looking for opportunities in the future, and you kind of knew it was coming.
I didn't know it was coming, but I knew that when the opportunity presented itself, the right phone call all it would take was be the right phone call.
Yeah.
And it happened to be that you were putting off a whole separate project because it just didn't feel right for you at the time.
Well, with her, it was always, I looked at her 7 years ago that way. And it was just timing for this. But think about if it was someone that didn't have the relationships or the connections or the community around them, that just lost half of their household income.
It would be mentally devastating.
And this is the biggest problem that I have with what investors are doing right now with, there's a lot of advisors out there that tell their clients, don't worry about it, it comes back. There's a lot of the clients that never question that.
But it's harder to not question it. I can understand that if it's something to the effect of like, don't worry, it comes back, and I'm 25 years old with a $5,000 Roth IRA. Okay. But if I'm getting ready to retire in 6 months and I lose 30-40% because of a market downturn.
We saw more in 2020.
Yeah.
Why couldn't that happen again? So, you get back to that old, why did we start Portfolio Medics? It was because I wanted to ask the hard questions. I wanted to ask the hard questions because I knew that the big box firms that I was looking at joining, they wouldn't allow me to ask those questions. That wasn't even part of the philosophy to ask those. In other words, if I'm an advisor out there and I don't even know the right questions to ask, how can I make sure my client does?
Also, those big box firms don't, and big corporate America doesn't want the question of why do we do the things that we do them? Why are we doing them in this manner?
Well, it isn't just big box firms, though. It's a lot of the industry, because you had a lot of advisors that break away from big boxes and they go start their own thing, but they take the same level of knowledge. They don't try to expand that.
And they take the same structure.
They wanted the freedom, but they didn't want the expansion of critical thinking as far as like, how do I do things a little bit differently? Right.
There's no difference between an advisor who leaves a big box firm and a horse that's tied up to a lawn chair.
So picture that in your head. I guess if a horse is tied to a lawn chair, what happens?
It just stays there.
Really?
Because it's tied up. Because it's been trained to do that.
Interesting.
Because it's not thinking critically. It doesn't realize that if I just...
That's probably one of the best pictures I've ever had in my head.
Because
But isn't that like everybody, the lawn chair, how much does it weigh compared to the horse?
Exactly.
And what could the horse they could just simply walk away from it.
Right. And drag it along with them.
But the thing is, it's been trained for so many years that to think a certain way, to do a certain thing with fear.
That's why...
What, does the horse think it's going to get beat or yelled at or...
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Or written up because they're...
God, that's so sad.
It is. But, John, this is why I tell everybody that I wouldn't be the professional I am today without you. Because this is the first experience in my life where I didn't have to fit into a mold of something else that they wanted me to work someplace.
Yeah.
You have given me the latitude to say your revenue ceiling is where you make it. And any ideas that I've had, be it good, bad, and different, you've been like, this is great, and added to it.
I mean, I love you say that, but at the end of the day, there's no joy in that statement that I hear you, because it's just who I am and how I feel. And I'm glad that you got to that point, and I'm glad that you did, because now I can move on.
Right.
And then go find someone else that,
and you've instilled into me
position.
to
and that's where I'm so glad you
suit.
became part of the firm, because you're able to work with our advisors and you'll be able to connect with them, and you're able to guide them. And you're
why
more
did you recruit me to the firm?
You're a spirit guide, man. Look, the investment management industry is driven by a certain look of polish, of fake reality in a lot of instances. This is why independence is so important.
Yes.
Not just spiritually or financially, but on a much deeper level of connection and community.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't want to do is I don't want to get stuck into the same old YouTube crap that I see.
Yeah.
It's fear, but there's no resolution.
Right.
It's, the guys and the gals on YouTube can go so far, but they're not, a lot of them aren't licensed. They
Mm-hmm.
can't actually manage clients' money.
Right.
They can maybe sell some kind of a product or get them into their Patreon to buy education courses or something like that. But when it comes time to throw down and take the stage and play that solo night after night and be consistent, they can't do it because they're not legally allowed to do it. So this is where, when I start thinking about, okay, we talk about all this stuff, but what is the solution to it? And this is where I guess the phrase, what is it called? Thought leadership starts to kind of come into, and strategy.
Well, yeah, I think therefore I strategize.
Yeah. So, traditional investing, let's talk a little bit about the 2000. We kind of referenced a little bit 2000, 2008, 2020. Why did it fail during those times? I mean, I get a lot of questions about that. My biggest answer is to say it didn't fail. Traditional investing didn't fail. It did exactly what it was supposed to do.
And that's to be the market.
It's to be the market. So traditional investing is a very specific philosophy of investing, and there's multiple philosophies out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that it's good or bad or right or wrong. It's just a philosophy. Traditional asset allocation. It didn't fail in 2000. And I'll see a lot of times the 60-40 portfolio is dead. Dead to who? It's not alive. It's not a thing.
Right.
It's just a philosophy. And no, it's alive.
a tool.
It's still there. It's always going to be there. It was built in the 1950s with this whole philosophy of asset allocation and modern portfolio theory. It's a theory. It's a philosophy. It's not that it's dead. It's just that it's one selection of many that it may or may not work. But what's your definition of work? Like, is it going to work if we have another market downturn? And the answer is, hell yeah, a 60-40 portfolio is going to work. It's going to go down just as much as the benchmark.
Correct.
And it's going to do exactly what it's designed to do.
Correct.
So it's not that, I hear about market timing is bad. You can't have a manager that ever beats the market. What's your definition of beating the market? Is it just the number, or is it all the other intricacies behind it? Again, when the fees, we shouldn't pay more than, or I'll never pay an advisor to manage money, or it's the race to the bottom as far as paying fees. Look, man, you drive a nice car, you buy a nice house, you're paying for it.
Yeah.
You go to the store, you got hamburger and you got filet mignon. Which one do you buy if you got some extra cash and you're a connoisseur?
The filet.
Why would you buy the filet? It costs so much more. It's the stupidest thing in the world. It's the same meat, Jason, in the burger than it is in the filet. Why are you buying the filet?
It's just better.
But better for what? See, this is the conversation we get into about, and this is where that whole, I could try to convince you that the burger's the better way to go. But in your brain, you're like, you know what? The filet's the way I want. When I start thinking about investing and I start talking to clients and our representatives about investing, there's a much bigger picture. Instead of talking about fees or performance or philosophy, it's more about philosophy and styles and strategy of how we're going to do things. And once we embrace that there's so many different philosophies out there, and that if I go work for a big box firm or a specific mutual fund company, name any mutual fund company, I'll tell you they have their own philosophy.
Correct.
And that's their philosophy and that's what they offer. Done. So once you understand that there's multiple philosophies out there and you can align yourself with a professional, if you can't find them yourself, this is where the professional money manager comes in. Start interviewing and start looking around and start examining the different, this is a great story in thinking about this. When I was 18 years old, I made a decision to leave. I was in college at the time. I was actually pre-med and pre-law. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was the kid that school was pretty easy, kind of getting through it, but I didn't like it.
Right. Me too.
It just didn't resonate with me at all. But anyway, but I was to the point where I was able to go to college early. So I went to college for a couple years and then I graduated high school, but then I was a little more advanced in college. And I stepped back and I was like 18 years old and I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this?
Right.
I've conformed to this system, but there's got to be so much more out there. I'm also at the point to where I was really seriously considering becoming a Catholic priest. I don't know if I ever told you that.
You've never said that to me.
Yeah. So, I was being an Eagle Scout and being really deeply involved in Catholic scouting at the time. We developed Catholic religious medals, that kind of stuff. I was born and raised in the Catholic Church. I'm not as religious on that bent today. It doesn't matter right or wrong, but I still have my own beliefs, but there was a point in time in my life where I thought the best way for me to serve would be to become a Catholic priest, which I thought was interesting. Now, I joined the military and it gave me the ability to go to multiple religions and see them. And I went to Buddhist temples and I went to synagogue and I went to Catholic church and I saw Methodism and I saw Presbyterian, and I saw, and I saw, and I saw. And I realized, wow, all these different philosophies. Why am I looking at just this one?
Right.
Right, wrong, good or bad, doesn't matter.
Doesn't
and
matter.
I know some people are going to be like, oh, well, you're no longer a Catholic, so you blah, blah. I'm like, well, just a choice that I have. It's like, it's a philosophy. But the thing is when it comes to investing, people get stuck into the one way,
mm-hmm.
whether it's because of a lot of times it's because of the relationship that they have with an advisor.
Correct.
And they rely on the advisor to give them the information that they need to be able to succeed based on what they do. But the whole time they don't realize that the person they're talking to only has the one philosophy to choose from. So kind of coming back to it, as portfolio medics, what I think makes us a lot different is the fact that we have multiple philosophies to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
And as guides and coaches for our clients, we can look at a situation, their situation, particular situation, and figure out together as a team which philosophy or multiple philosophies is going to be able to suit them. So just a contrast and going back to the traditional asset allocation, which is what you see in every 401k, it's target date funds. It's a very broadly diversified philosophy of investing that goes up and down with the market. Then you have, well, how do we look at the difference of other styles? And I don't have to point to anybody else except for Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, if you just go read the current news today and you look at Berkshire Hathaway, you'll see that Warren Buffett has his company. They're invested in cash, the most they've ever been invested in cash, percentage-wise.
Interesting.
Why? Strategy.
Yep.
It's not because we're not going to get into the whys of his decision process, but the fact that he's in such heavy cash is a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Some people that resonates with, some people it doesn't. But it's a strategy that a lot of people don't get exposed to.
Correct.
Because of that narrowed mindedness of just looking at one thing and hoping that it's going to work out. So, a big part of what we do is trying to educate. And what it boils down to is, for me, instead of trying to teach this to each individual investor across the world, because I'm only one guy, we're only a small firm working 70, 80 representatives across the country. I feel the best way for JB and I to be able to deliver our message is through our community of advisors that we work with. And so it's just a matter of us finding advisors that are questioning their reality, that it's finding advisors that are looking for something different. And we talked a little bit about it earlier. What you work with a lot of our advisors at the firm.
Do.
So you give me, from your point of view, what an advisor looks for when they join us.
The freedom of choice, the freedom to be able to service the clients how they see fit and what works best for them individually, and not having to fit into a structure that we're mandating. The ability to be able to, when I go to a client meeting, I'm in shorts and I'm dressed like this.
Yeah.
I'm able to present my authentic self.
Yeah.
And I think the people that are do well and have come to work with us at Portfolio Medics, they have reached the point in life where they are no longer interested in fitting into somebody else's mold, because they've realized that they've just hit nothing but wall after wall after wall, hindering them from truly growing to the capacity.
And when they look
see
at it closely,
and
it gets down to the simple, they just feel like they don't fit anymore.
Right.
They don't fit.
Yeah.
And it's the same for advisors, and it's the same for investors.
Correct.
They just, they get enough information that they're questioning reality, and they realize for them that they just don't fit where they are.
Yes.
That's the type of community that we've created, not just with Portfolio Medics, but we created with our band. Floyd Nation, right?
Yeah. It's truly have laptop will travel. It's amazing that, when we first started Floyd Nation, we were driving around in 15 passenger vans, and I do a lot of the driving for the artist side. So there's many times where I'd be in the front driving, talking to a rep on the phone while you're in the back, all the way in the back, talking to a client on the phone. It's to be able to work wherever we are. And now that Tracy's remote, I can't wait for the time that I'm going to be like, babe, I've booked us a cabin in Georgia for a week. We're going to go work remotely for an entire week.
And you know what, for you, that works great. And there's a lot of people out there that want that same experience for sure. My biggest, and just in closing and in kind of coming to this, it's, we built this firm based on trust and transparency and accountability and being authentic. And that's really the resonance that we're trying to get across to the world on it. Again, my biggest concern right now when I think about representatives and clients is putting them in a situation, a stress test scenario that says something bad happens, you lose your job, the market crashes like it did back in 2000 or 2008 or 2020, and there's no bailout there. No one's coming to help. You've heard that phrase before, right? Nobody's coming to save you at that point. What's left? It's you, and it's the philosophy you've chosen through the people you've chosen that philosophy through.
Yes.
And are they really going to be there? Is it really going to stand up? Eliminating 50% of someone's income is a great stress test for me. And I say, look, you're a retiree, and here's the setup. You got a certain amount of income, cut that income in half, i.e. market loss. There's no government bailout. Let's stress test that and see how it feels. A month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, that income never came back. What does it look like for you? And once we can start looking at it like that, it's kind of like if we're in a survival situation, taking away someone's water. How long can someone can live without water? 3 days. 3 days, man. That's all you can live without water. And I look at that like income. How long can somebody live without income? And a lot in this world today where things are so expensive.
About 3 days.
Really, it depends on the person, right?
Yeah.
So the biggest thing to me is when we're doing this as a firm, when we're looking at situations, I'm looking at the advisors that are out there, asking them the same question. If you lost 50% of your income, how's your life going to look?
Right.
And if your life looks like crap because you lost 50% of your income,
how do your clients' lives
look? How are you going to be able to service them and serve them?
Right.
It just becomes a snowball effect. So this is the problem that we've attempted to tackle. And it's a monumental problem because of the mindset of the industry as a whole.
Yes.
The perception of people as a whole, of how they view things, of how they believe their philosophy is going to get through without being open-minded enough to look for other things. And this is why we're calling the podcast what we're calling it.
It's great.
It's Mother, Should I Trust the Life I Built? Which is, by the way, taken from Pink Floyd's Mother, Should I Trust the Government?
And the answer is no.
So,
the answer is really whatever you just deem the answer to be. But for me, it's no.
And that's what we're doing. And that's what we're going to stick to, man. So,
awesome.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, John.
I appreciate it. You've actually illuminated me on a couple of things that I really appreciate. And we're going to go out and have a really nice lunch after, because I just want to sit and talk to you about this now.
Right on.
A little bit more.
Cool.
All right.
This is awesome.
Dude, next time, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll talk to you again.
You know it.
Thanks, everybody. And this is Jason Collins.
This is John Conrath.
And we're just here to help.
Yeah. So reach out if you have any questions, concerns, thoughts, or if you want to inquire what it would look like for you being a representative with Portfolio Medics.
Or even a client. We're here too for the clients.
Yeah.
So great. Have a great day. We'll
Thanks.
talk to you next time.